What's up, YouTube? I'm Trent Wel-Don. Welcome back to the channel, Wel-Don Aquatics. We are continuing on what has become one of the most hotly debated topics on my channel. All right, guys, you heard right. One of the most hotly debated topics on the channel. That is the testing of the Ziss Bio Filter. I did part one. It was almost an hour long. We had a lot of information into it. I will link that down in the description below, and you can go check that out if you would like to. Now, the number one comment I got on that video was my test was flawed. I'm going to agree with you to a point, but I also have to say, though, I think that video, it wasn't flawed, sure, but I'd also put a lot of time and effort into that video that not everybody saw. You know, that was almost 2 weeks of testing. I know it's, people are going to argue like, oh, there's time in that you're just waiting. And yes, there was a lot of downtime, a lot of waiting time. But you have to remember, like, I did it. I put the time into it. I put the effort into it. And it's not as easy as everybody thinks it is just to set up a test. So there's a lot of great comments. I listened to all the comments. I read all the comments. I took what you guys said, what you wanted to see. I'm going to try and apply that on a second portion of this testing. But you have to remember, though, I have limited resources here. There was some great comments, some great ideas of running additional testing. You know, setting up like 4 different tanks, each running this amount of ammonia, this type of media. But remember, guys, I don't have the room or the time or the resources to set up a whole room of testing. I would absolutely love to. Maybe in the future, if we get large enough, we can, you know, invest in an actual testing area. But with that, though, I think this is worth another look at. You know, say there's a lot of good comments, a lot of good suggestions. So we're going to try and take some of those and reapply it. So this is part 2 of the Ziss Bio Filter testing, and we're going to, you know, change up some things and talk about that here. But before we go any farther, I do have to say that this video is again sponsored by Ziss Aqua. I cannot thank them enough for being in direct contact with me, for actually listening to me, answering some questions. What's really cool about that is that Ziss Aqua actually sent out to me 1 liter of the K1 Micro by Evolution Aqua, and they also sent out 1 liter of the ZM1 media. These are both the fluidized or the moving bed filter media. The ZM1 is what comes with the Ziss Bio Filter, and the K1 Micro is very comparable to it. So thank you to Ziss Aqua for sponsoring this. In the future, right now we're testing we're testing the ZM1 media. In the future, what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the media in that exact filter with the K1 Micro, and, you know, do some comparisons there, see how they match up to each other. So again, this is sponsored by Ziss Aqua, and thank you so much for that. All right, guys, moving forward with this test. Here's what we're changing, and here's how we're applying some new things. Same 20-gallon tank. We did a 100% water change. I dechlorinated the water. We have the heater back on. The temperature is set to the 75 degrees. We're using the Ziss Bio Filter that we used previously, but what I did is I added back in that pre-filter sponge. So I swapped the sponges out with another filter having another tank. So there is some beneficial bacteria growing on that sponge already. And the reason I did this is I wanted to test this filter in how 99% of people are going to use it if they buy it. That means they're going to take it out of the box, hook it up to an air pump, and put it in their tank. They're not going to worry about, you know, removing the sponge and that nature, maybe doing some upgrades or changing the media out. You know, this is how it's meant to be used. This is how we're now going to test it and use it. We are using the same Tetra Whisper 30 air pump, and in the future I'm looking at doing some additional testing with a larger air pump. So I say this is going to be an ongoing process on this, and, you know, maybe we'll have some, you know, part 3, part 4 kind of a thing, but right now we are on part 2. And that's the first changes we made. Now, if you remember, this is where people said my test was flawed on the last one. I added in that 30 grams of shrimp, and I was trying really to test to see how much, you know, I guess food the filter could process through. And somebody pointed that out to me, and they're right. Now, with that, I'm not gonna add the shrimp this time. I let it rot in there. We got up towards of 8 to 10, you know, parts per million ammonia. It was crazy. So this time around, instead of adding food in as the ammonia source, we are going to use, I gotta read it first, ammonium chloride solution. Here you go. Ammonium chloride solution. This is from Dr. Tim's Aquatics. I did buy this off Bulk Reef Supply. So this, the only sponsored portion of this video is the Ziss Aqua. So everything else I have bought and paid for. I have bought and paid for the initial filter setup as well. Just thank you again to Ziss Aqua for providing more media for additional testing down the road in the future. So what this ammonium chloride is going to do, the instructions are to add 4 drops of solution per gallon of water. And it's going to, you want to achieve upwards of 2 parts per million is their recommendation, not to exceed 5 parts per million. That's where I think my last one was flawed, is we were definitely over 5 parts per million. Now they recommend using this as an ammonia source for a fishless cycle, but we can delve farther into that on another video. Right now we're focusing in on testing the filter. So now what we're going to be testing is I'm going to add in enough ammonium chloride to bring this upwards to 2 parts per million ammonia. So I think it's a relatively realistic number for filter media to process through within 24 hours. Now we're not going to do the crazy 24, 48, 72 hour setup. What we're going to do initially is 24 hours. Add the ammonia, wait 24 hours, do a test, and to see if it has able to process through that ammonia within that time frame. Now, if it has not, we will wait an additional 24 hours and retest to see if we've gone through that. So instead of setting the set 24, 48, 72 hour marks, we're going to let that time frame be determined by how efficient this filter is. Here we go. Let's get the ammonia set up and then we'll continue to talk. So go ahead and skip forward to this portion of the video. I don't think anybody really wanted to watch me add 80 drops of the ammonium chloride solution because it is 4 drops per gallon, 20 gallons of water, 20 times 4, 80 gallons. If my math is incorrect, let me know. So we are live. We are testing. Within the next 24 hours, we're going to retest the water to make sure that, well, to see how efficient this ammonia was processed through. Now I went ahead and I did the test, I did the ammonia test with the API Master Test Kit, and we are right at about 2 parts per million ammonia. So it is very, I'm going to say close to accurate with the ammonium chloride solution and their instructions to reach the 2 parts per million ammonia portion of that. Now, the other thing I wanted to address in this, this segment of the video is one of the comments I got in my last testing portion was to use lab grade testing equipment. Guys, I don't have access to lab grade testing equipment. As cool as that would be, it's not going to happen. So we're reusing the API Freshwater Master Test Kit. And everything I'm using for this test, I will put down links in the description below. And remember as well, the link for the API Master Test Kit will be an affiliate link for me through Amazon. It costs you nothing, but if you decide to make a purchase through that link, I get a small kickback, which is going to allow me to continue to do things like this, and even allow me to do it on a larger basis and a better scale. It's one of the things I do want to do moving forward with these types of tests is I want to bring you guys better information, better facts, and really help you, grow as a hobbyist. So we are set up, we're going, we've talked about everything else. I will see you guys in 24 hours. All right, guys, we are back. We are back to finish up this portion of testing the Ziss Filter Part 2. Bit of a confession here. I wasn't able to meet the exact 24-hour mark to complete this testing or to run that initial ammonia test. I got called into work last night, so we are now at about, we're right around the 30-hour mark. So it's about 6 hours past that 24-hour mark, but I still did the ammonia test. And before we go on, I know that the comments are gonna blow up again of how my test is flawed. Maybe there's some things I didn't do right, things you'd have done differently, but here's what I have to say. People have looked at my videos and they say, these videos don't make sense. Like that wasn't worth my time watching. You never really answered this. The main question people want answered is, does this filter work? And I'm gonna say with 100% confidence, absolutely yes. The Ziss Bubble Bio Filter works. And I'm sorry you get me. I just got home from work, so I'm tired. I'm stumbling, but I really wanted to get this video out for you guys and just, in full confidence say this filter works. Now granted, with this test, very unnatural, kind of environment you're gonna keep your fish in. Rarely are you gonna keep them in bare bones tanks, besides maybe like a quarantine system. If you're selling fish out of it, most of us are gonna have live plants in there. Most of us are gonna have a steady water change. There's different things we're going to be adding into the tank that could deter ammonia growth, or you're gonna have better, more beneficial bacteria. I'm not gonna say better bacteria, but it's more bacteria. So there's numerous variables that come into play when you actually set up an aquarium for this kind of a thing. And that's something I wanna continue with this. Like, this is gonna be probably something that's gonna frequent this channel for a while, is delving into this. Like, this is just kind of a raw test of a hobbyist level that I can do, and I kind of want to push the boundaries. But if nothing else, I want to get people to think. I want to make you guys just like think about it, get inspired about this. And maybe this doesn't matter to you. Maybe you're just watching this because I'm making a fool of myself doing this. But yes, and this is something we'll talk more in the future. Is like, for a great example, my 125 gallon Fahaka puffer tank. This filter is running that tank, and I've had zero issues. I have zero ammonia, I have zero nitrites, I have some traceable nitrates because I dose with fertilizers, but other than that, like, everything's just fantastic in that tank. The plants are growing really well, algae's growing really well, the fish are happy. So now that we've kind of had that ranting portion over, I do these tests because I want to push the boundaries. This fascinates me. This is another part of the hobby that just fascinates me. And that was the whole purpose of this channel when I set it up. I wanted to inspire people to try something new. So with that, the testing for today was quite interesting. We're not at 0 parts per million ammonia, but if you remember, we used the ammonium chloride solution and we added in enough drops to equal 2 parts per million ammonia in the test tank. With the testing I did this morning, so we're about 30 hours into the test now. I did miss that 24-hour mark. We are down, I'm gonna say we're anywhere from 1 part per million to half. So 1 part per million to 0.5 parts per million ammonia within this test tank now, if that makes sense. I didn't test, I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't test the nitrites, I didn't test the nitrates. I don't know if they're gonna be totally traceable with my test kit yet. And I really wanted to focus in on the ammonia portion of this. There's been some controversy of, if you've had ammonia go down, you should have some testable nitrites and nitrates. And I agree with you, but for the sake of this purpose here, I just kind of really wanted to show that yes, this filter does process ammonia. And I think, again, if you pair it with a sponge filter, if you pair it with a hang on the back filter, you have plants in your tanks, you have a steady water change schedule, even if you were doing 10% a week, you're gonna have a successful aquarium running this filter. So once again, I'm gonna full confidence say, yes, this filter works. It is great. I like it. I'm gonna continue to use it, continue to do some testing on it. And maybe we're gonna mix this up a little bit. Maybe we'll throw some applications in here of actually put some live plants in this tank. Maybe actually do some real-time testing on some of my other tanks. Take some readings there and that nature. So at this point now, I'm just rambling on. Like, really, at this point now, I've given you the results. I'm rambling. I'm tired. But I didn't want to leave you guys hanging. The last video on this caused some controversy, and I wanted to do what I can to clear the air. That's what I'm doing this for. I want to just inspire people. So where was I going with this? So maybe one kind of final note is I'm going to continue to do some testing. I really want to do some testing with this. So this time we added the sponge back in. I want to run another test of not having the sponge in. So we got the K1 Micro in from Ziss Aqua. They're sponsoring this. So I have so many more tests I want to do. So stick with me, bear with me. Again, leave your comments in the description below. I do read all of them. I take them to heart. I try and apply what you guys are saying, what you guys want to see, because that's really, you come to watch my content, I need to be able to give you good content to watch, enjoy, learn from in that nature moving forward. And also, with this test tank, I think 2 parts per million ammonia is even still something that you're never really gonna see in your tank unless something's really going wrong, or you're starting that initial cycle of the beneficial bacteria. And somebody made a great comment on one of my last video of testing this, is that beneficial bacteria, particularly on a moving bed media, can take months to fully establish where it's truly coating everything. But I say we're gonna keep testing, we're gonna keep trying things, but for now, this is part 2. And maybe I'll try and come up with some more creative titles for this, but this portion at least, this is part 2. Kind of want to re-come back at this. So I hope this helps some people. I hope that answers some questions. And I say, guys, you can reach out to me through email at weldonaquatics@gmail.com. I'm on Instagram, just Weldon Aquatics. I'm on Facebook, Weldon Aquatics. I've actually talked with people across all of those platforms regarding this filter, regarding other things. I'm not going to claim to know everything, but I do want to help others enjoy this hobby as much as I do. And with that, guys, I'm gonna go get some sleep, and we will see you guys all in the next one. And like I say, we got more testing we are going to be doing, so if you have not yet, hit the subscribe button, leave me a comment, thumbs up, thumbs down, one way or another, and we'll see you guys in the next one officially.